Welcome to episode number 90 of the Closing Table with Lawyers title. I'm your host, Tamera, and today's special guest is Tom May, and we're going to talk about keeping a client for life right after this.
Welcome to the Closing Table with host Tamera, where we break down how to be successful in real estate and what it's really like to work in the real estate business. This is the Closing Table with Lawyers title.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Tamera, and today's special guest is Tom May. Tom is, well, are we the better half or the other half of the dynamic husband-wife duo, the Tom May team? Angela May couldn't be with us today when we're missing her because she is a pivotal part of this husband-wife duo. They're with Monument Realty, and they just celebrated 21 years in the business. So I think they know what they're talking about, and I'm excited to have them back on the show. They've been on, well, I keep saying they, I can't say they anymore. It's Tom has been on the show once before. And so I'm glad to welcome him back. He is a sphere-based realtor along with his wife, and they have generated consistent sales, even though we've had a weird real estate market. So I wanted them to come in today and talk about how they stay consistent in their business and how they keep a client for life. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Very good to be here.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to talk about how to keep a client for life. So let's start with the first part of it.
Okay.
How do you get a lead? Because that's where everybody's kind of stuck, is filling their pipeline with stuff. So How do you get leads, or how do leads come to you?
Understandable. So very luckily, we've been in the business, like we said, 21 plus years. So we do have a good database of our past clients. That's where most of our leads are coming from right now. They're not immediate leads like we have to sell tomorrow, but they're future leads. And we'll cultivate them and we'll talk with them and get them started on the right path. We also get leads from Monument, from our brokerage. We sign up and we're involved with the training with their classes to get those leads, and they'll filter them down and give them to us randomly.
Okay, so let's focus on your referral leads. Right. Okay. Now, obviously, you didn't start with a referral in your referrals in your pipeline.
Right.
So let's say I guess the opportunity for someone new that you don't know would come to you through Monument. Mm-hmm. Everything in your sphere is stuff that you've already built out, correct? Right. Do you add new people to your sphere and they're all through referral?
We do. We add them once we talk to them, or once we have communication with them, or have some type of interaction. Yes. Okay,
so how far out do you have leads in your pipeline right now? Would you suspect 6, 8, 9, 12 months, longer?
12 to 18 months, some.
12 to 18 months.
And then some 6 months is a good number right now.
Okay.
Yes.
And so if you were going to talk to somebody who was just starting in the business,
yes,
what would be the best way for them to start cultivating a sphere-based business? What would be your recommendation?
Sure. You have to get involved, I think, at the local level, in your community, maybe in your church, or somewhere where you're connected, a PTA, at a school, if you have kids that go to that school or something like that. Somewhere where there's other, obviously parents or families where you can interact with them, either on a weekly basis or a bi-monthly, or somehow learning to, see the trends where are people coming and going, or they're moving, or most importantly, are they talking about real estate? That's really the key. When I first started, I was on my own for the first 8 years, and I would just talk real estate all the time to my friends and people that I knew, so out of that builds the relationships, and the more right, the more statistics you can give really builds their trust.
There's got to be some finesse to that so that you don't become, oh God, here comes Tom, that realtor again. He wants to talk about real estate. So talk to me about the finesse of it all.
It's funny you say that. So what's happening now is what I'm seeing, and that used to be the case. So I would say ease into the conversation. Everybody is a little bit different. So you can't come on like a full bright light to everybody. It'd be like a dimmer switch where, okay, maybe you're soft here and then you turn into the statistics, or somebody who doesn't care about the numbers, just needs their help. You help them and you become their friend and their ally. But what we're seeing recently, and even more so now with the interest rate issues and economy issues, things like that, people do want to talk about real estate.
Oh,
They
yeah. Okay.
really do.
Okay. That's
So
interesting.
they start the conversation. I know 5 or 6 groups of friends that I can jump into, and they're going to catch me first. Hey, Tom, what is happening now? Hey, what do you think of this? Where's the interest rate or whatever? So I have to be prepared when I'm
because you're going to walk into it.
I know it because now it's hyper focused. Everybody is really concerned about what is happening and what's going to happen. And it's funny we say this, it's not even summer yet, but the rest of this year. So if they're thinking about making a move or they're thinking about their finances, they have to plan now, especially with the tariffs that are out there, things of that nature that everybody's talking about. They're I don't want to say attacking, but they're jumping on us for that information right away.
Well, and the media always drives this
Right.
kind of panic thing about real estate, right?
Yes.
And when we're entrenched in it, we find that a lot of this is really just media,
Right.
Exactly. It's not really affecting the day-to-day operations of the
Right.
real estate industry, right? So it's your job to disarm them in that conversation.
Correct. We accept it in, we talk about it for a minute, and then kind of what I do is move into what is your situation?
Right.
Are you single? Are you married? Are you divorced? You're going through something, whatever it is. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where do you want to be in 4 months or 8 months, because we can help you.
I think sometimes we overcomplicate some of this stuff,
Yes.
right? We make it so hard. Like, what's the strategy for
Right.
building a sphere-based business? It's really
Right.
about being yourself. What I've heard you say, to recap, is being yourself,
Yes.
being educated so that when people do ask you for your expertise, you're ready.
Right.
Being a little bit of a social chameleon, I think that's very important, so that you're not
Yes.
presenting yourself the same way to all people, because that's not going to be received by all.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
And making sure that you're super plugged into your community, where if that's the PTA, if that's the chamber, if that's your neighborhood, if that's your church, whatever that is, you find where you enjoy spending your time and make sure you plug in socially and connect.
Perfect. Exactly right. And being empathetic too, right? You have to listen. A good listener, I've learned over the years, is much better than being a good talker. So you listen. People want to talk to you. They want to tell you what's happening in their lives, and you want to listen, and you want to take that in and help them.
It's really funny that you say that, because my whole job is to listen.
There you go.
And I was on I got asked to be a guest on someone else's podcast a few weeks ago. So I recorded that episode, and I find it weird to talk about myself because I spend all the time talking about you,
There you go.
which I prefer to be on this side of the mic.
Perfect. And you're good at it. So.
Okay, so we've talked about how you get a lead, and we know that once you get that relationship, your goal is to keep that relationship for life, right? And that's going to extend far beyond just that one person or one couple, right?
Right.
So we're going to kind of come back to that a little bit towards the end of the podcast, but let's move forward and talk about your first consultation. Okay, someone says, okay, Tom, I want to, we'll do seller and buyer. I want to buy a house. I want to sell a house. What does your first consultation look like with them? Walk us through that consultation process.
Perfect. We set up an appointment, and I'll come over, or Angela will come over. Sometimes both of us, if we know them well enough, or if it's a little more complicated, we'll both go over to the house and we'll sit them down and talk to their needs. Really lay out a plan, week by week. What are you thinking you want to do? Do you want to get to the new house first, or do you want to sell this house? Are you okay with taking the showings? There's a huge process on both sides. So first to sell and then to buy, or is it we're going to rent this house, lease it out, and then we're going to go buy something, or vice versa? We have to sell here and we don't know what we're doing. We may lease. Kind of just hearing and back to listening to their explanation of where they are in their life and where they need to be in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so you sit down with them and you pretty much interview them.
Correct. Map it out.
Map it out.
So I'll usually bring a notebook and just old school, write out some notes of what they're talking about and think about, okay, here's the calendar. It's June, July. Obviously, can we do this within a week? Or do you need 6 weeks to get your house ready? we just look at the calendar and start planning, looking at holidays and maybe their trips, things of that nature that they already have planned, or obviously graduations, things of that nature.
Sure.
So all of that matters, right, to them. And we listen, going back to listening and planning out where do they want to be and how can we fit it in. And then what we do, once we have that kind of sketched out on timelines, we will put together our suggestions. Okay, well, here's the market and here's what's happening now. Like going into the summer is going to be a much better time to get listed and sold rather than Thanksgiving or December timeframe. So can we do this now in the next week or two with our help? And luckily we have vendors, roofers, and we have plumbers and electricians and landscapers. So we have all of that with us. We can get them in touch with them, or we can, organize some of the work ourselves. Whichever. We do have some flexibility with that. Luckily, with the experience, we know some people we can call right away.
Sure.
Some people may take a little longer, depending if they're busy, but we just kind of map it out. How fast do you want this to go, or how slow?
Okay, so it's really important to come up with a plan because you want to set expectations with the seller and or the buyer. Now, the seller could also be a buyer, right? Because they're looking to go somewhere next. Okay, so let's focus on the seller part of this. Okay, I'm Miss Seller. I'm coming to you and I want to sell my house. Let's talk about what the options are for selling. Okay. And Jesse, you've got our slide up on the screen. Okay. So let's talk about some options for selling. What do you talk to the seller about as far as that's concerned?
Sure. At the first consultation, I'll talk to them about timing, whether it's spring or summer or winter. And then we can go into, okay, how long do you want to, wait, or do you need to get listed? Because timing is very important. And then do you have the finances? And we'll talk more about bridge loans or a recast loan, things of that nature. So there are options is what we always say. If you want to sell quickly, then we talk about pricing. Do you want to be at a price where you're going to get the most attraction and possibly some multiple offers? Or do you want to test the market and be maybe at a little higher price and see, depending on, of course, the house and the location, do you want to see if you can get the very, very top dollar for your house?
Okay, I'm the seller. Tom, what do you recommend in this current market? What should we do? Should we take the chance, price a little higher and test the market, or should we be more aggressive?
So right now you're at great timing. You can test the market a little bit depending on your neighborhood. If we have 120 homes listed in your neighborhood, let's say, that may not work. Competition is always going to be, our nemesis, right? So if there's only one or two, then yes, and you're on a cul-de-sac street and you have a pool and you have a 3-car garage, yes, then you're going to be able to test the market.
What does test the market mean?
That means putting it at a price where it's probably top of the neighborhood, and you're going to, of course, we will market it very strongly as we do every house, and see if the buyers will bite or go for these amenities that you may have, rather than just settling on a house that doesn't have a pool or doesn't have a 3-car garage or 4-car garage, something like that.
What do you typically see as an average of a test? Is it $5,000 higher than what or $10,000 higher? Is there kind of a range of what you can do right now?
Very hard question because of if you're in the luxury market over the million or not.
Okay. Understood.
So very difficult. We look at the past sales and we look at pendings, what we know that buyers have already contracted, all on our CMA that I bring over. And I actually bring my laptop, so we look at it live. We can tell if something was just listed today or yesterday or all of that. So days on market really tells a story from the other sales in the neighborhood. So I'll sit with the client and look through all that real time, and we'll start formulating, okay, well, this house did this in 2 days. Well, this house around the corner is sitting now and it's 100th day. So what are those differences? So then we can really zero in on why that house is not selling versus why this one did in 2 days.
Okay.
And the best thing is they typically know these homes. So we work in conjunction with them. They might even know the owners of those homes. So they might have some insight that I may not have just by knowing the person themselves who sold.
And then
so I use all of that.
And do you talk to them about repairs prior to listing and all of that kind of stuff? Yeah.
We do a walkthrough. I do. That's probably the first thing we'll do is look at repairs or updates, painting, carpeting, tile, wood floor, whatever. Landscaping is huge.
One of the things that we've been talking about is, buyers want a turnkey house, right? So do you find resistance from sellers wanting to do repairs prior to listing, just because they think their house might be already ready to go? Or do you find yourself convincing sellers to do things prior to listing?
The latter. In this market, you have to do the repairs in advance. You have to do the upgrades. Buyers are very particular. They're very smart. They're looking at 150 homes online every day. So they're flipping through the photographs and they can pick out a bad roof or a hole in the wall or whatever.
Well, and roofs are a big concern in Texas right now, obviously.
Correct.
So
yes.
Okay. Well, and I find that to be true also. I mean, I was telling you guys before we started recording that we put my dad's house on the market and it's under contract. Thank goodness it closes in 2 days. But I was very conscious about doing the things that needed to be done. I mean, my dad's house is really well maintained, but there was a few things that we needed to do to just make sure that we weren't going to have any issues with the buyer walking away because there was something that was left undone.
Right. And the nice thing is that we even have some options that we've talked to in the last couple of years where a company will come in and renovate or update or make repairs in advance of the listing and then get paid at closing. So there are companies out there that will do these renovations, let's say, because every seller is different.
Sure.
They may have the finance available, they may not, but they have equity in the home. So to use that equity to pay for those repairs, even a week or two before we get listed, is much more advantageous.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for sellers to either do repairs or bridge the gap, the equity gap or the financial gap to get into the next home. We brought up that quick slide about bridge loans. So there's financing options and then options for getting repairs done, right? So there's always, I feel like there's always an answer for a seller, right?
Yes, there is.
Not unfortunately, we don't have as many answers for buyers sometimes.
Not yet.
But, the sellers do have ways to make it a little bit more seamless to get to the next
They do.
place.
Exactly. And again, luckily, between Angela and I, with our experience, we've been through many homes. We've seen what's out there. We're very current on what needs, to be updated and how it'll help sell faster. So we use that expertise to say, okay, you need to do this, this, and this at least. We understand if you can't do this, maybe we can help you get those done. And if not, we certainly understand, and then we make that decision on pricing.
So, okay, so you're pretty, you try to be very persuasive about what they need to do, and if not, then you price accordingly. If they don't want it
myself.
Or you'll do them yourself. Okay, well, that is a full service realtor right there. Okay,
correct.
So we've done the repairs or we've gotten the home ready to list, right? We listed the house, we priced it right. We got a contract.
Yes.
Okay. So walk us through the process once the house is listed and focusing on where they're going to go next, and then once it goes under contract.
So that's the beauty of working together with Angela. She mostly will take out our buyers to look for that next new house. And in the interim, even before we get the contract or right at the same time, she'll already be talking to them about an area and a price point and things of that nature. But she'll take them out and show them homes and get them excited about, okay, this, or this will work, and here are the options. Obviously, we can do that in the interim while we're looking for, the first buyer, but it's really important to get involved right away when we do get a contract, because it could go fast. And what I tell everybody is that you're lucky you're getting 2 realtors when you hire us for one, because if I get busy and I'm working your contract on the sale, Angela is always available to then take you out and show you a few homes as well.
Yeah, that is a very busy time for a buyer and buyer seller. The buyer, you call them
seller buyer,
buyer seller, seller buyer.
Yes.
But luckily, there's 2 of you, right? So Tom, you handle the listing side, and then Angela handles the buy side. So it becomes a little bit more seamless process for them. Okay.
Correct.
So what are we focusing on once they're listed, right? Things like where they're going next.
Right.
We already talked about, we can talk again about financing, things like that. So what are some of those conversations with the houses listed to help the sellers get through the process seamlessly?
Typically starts with an area. Do you want to be in Salina versus Fort Worth? I mean,
the buy-side conversation.
It really is.
Okay.
It's total buyer consultation. And a lot of this will come out during our processes anyways.
Sure.
So I'm always constantly making notes, even if Angela's not there. And I'll have those notes ready for her. And, since we're together all the time, I'll share those notes. But it really starts with an area. Where do you want to live? And then finances. Right? Are you at $1 million for that purchase, or are you at 500? I mean, it's a huge range, in the Metroplex. So there are certain areas that we can get you into, because there's also new builds that are offering different incentives right now. They're offering
pretty good incentives right now. Pretty good.
Very, very good incentives. So
pretty good.
If you could go to a new build area, the issue we're seeing is that every builder is not in every area.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to be in a certain area of McKinney or Frisco or Denton, whatever, you may not find a new builder there, new build community.
No, I mean, we're pushing people further and further out all the time. You know what? I met with a builder, last week or the week before? I don't know. I have no concept of time. Anyway, they have a product in Salina that is under $500K. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could get in Salina anymore for under $500K.
A lot of
So I thought that was pretty interesting. But, even the Salina people that have been there for a minute, they're pushing out.
Right.
Because they're selling and going further out because they don't want to deal with all this stuff. So, I think we're finding, everybody's just getting pushed out, right? Because affordability option, or the builders, that's where they are. And the financing's a lot better than purchasing an existing home.
Exactly.
So I think the buy side job might be harder right now.
You have to know the area is really what it comes down to, because of the new build incentives, the builders that are out there. Some are offering great rates. Right. I've seen them in the 3s and 4s that they're offering. So to a buyer, you almost tempted, right, to take that. You almost have to take that in a certain area if you really want to get and stay within your monthly budget. Yeah. Because that's where it starts. Okay, am I going to have a $3,000 mortgage or $8,000 mortgage? So we have to figure that out, and then back into, okay, what price point will you be at? And then we can direct them in either a new build or not.
This isn't on my sheet, but I always reserve the right to ask questions that aren't on there. Do you... You can answer.
Here it comes.
I never ask you questions you can't answer.
Yes,
are we having hard conversations with buyers right now about taxes and insurance rates and the longevity,
Daily.
like what that's going to look like in a year or 2 years?
We are really, most importantly, the insurance.
Yeah.
We're talking about that sometimes even before we go out looking.
You are?
Because sure, the interest rates have skyrocketed in some areas, and there's another reason for a new build purchase, because those insurance rates we found are much less than on an older home or a pre-existing home.
That makes sense.
So yes, Angela is very, very in tune with that. Property taxes, yes. We look at that, and we have you have a fantastic app that we carry on our iPads.
That's right. Lori's Agent One. Thank you for the plug.
Every single day to show you what your monthly will look like, depending on this, and the other.
Yeah, those PIDs, MUDs, SUDs,
right,
all of that kind of stuff too. We have all that up north,
right.
Which severely affects the taxes. Okay, we're under contract.
Right.
Woo-woo!
Fantastic. Now we're getting through repair amendments and repairs.
Option
period, HOA delivery.
Yeah. All of that fun stuff. So help us understand how you walk a client through the contract to close process and getting to the closing table.
Well, we do have help. We have a person who helps us with our paperwork, and I talk them through then A to Z. Okay, here's what's next. Here's what you're going to need to do. Here's the HOA, homeowner association, delivery, things of that nature. After we're through the option period, then there's going to be an appraisal by your buyer, right? Whoever their lender is going to send an appraiser out. I like to be there for that meeting, and I'll talk with the appraiser and show them around a little bit. The homeowner is there too, but I walk them through each step of the process so that they're aware of what's coming up next. After the appraisal, it's more of, okay, we're starting to pack and we're starting to make sure if we're buying, right, that contract is going well too.
Yeah.
So we'll talk them through that process. Angela's already worked with them on their repairs if they need them on that side. And then their appraiser will be going out on the new build too, or the new purchase. After we're through that, then we really focus on utilities, transferring, moving, everything that's involved with getting the family from their existing home to the new home.
And then you get to the closing table.
And then we get to the closing table. We're at lawyer's title.
Aw.
And
I love that.
Kelly and Lauren have walked us through.
You worked with Kelly for a long, long time.
Yes, and they're fantastic. They're really pivotal in walking them through either the finance part or the legal side or any questions that might come up. They really are. They're very responsive, and that's been such a huge help to us because they just go hand in hand and they're always available. So that really is the key right now. But we're at the closing table and we go over the finances, one more time, and we make sure everything's in line. And a lot of times we can do the purchase of their house the same day. We just handled this last week for a client of ours.
Double close.
Leaving a Little Elm, and she moved out to Salina. We're not far from
come on up.
Your area.
It's interesting because everything that we've talked about today, this isn't hard, right? The theme of everything, and I think this is the biggest takeaway, is how you stay involved with your clients.
Right.
You don't pass off the relationship. You don't step out of the relationship.
Right.
You are with them every step of the way to the closing table. Yes. And I think, like I said, I don't think there's anything that we've talked about that is some sort of like ooh la la moment.
Right.
This is taking them step by step, holding their hand, being there to answer the questions, taking their call, staying in front of what's going on, making them aware of anything that could potentially come up during the transaction. All these things. This is just a high level of communication.
Very high. And being proactive.
And being very proactive. And that takes no money. That's free.
Right.
And will help you create the client for life.
Correct.
If you aren't at the inspection or you aren't at the appraisal and you aren't, at the closing table or you aren't at these places, you aren't taking their call when they call you with a concern, that is going to create an uphill battle for you to create that client for life, right?
Right.
Being with them every step of the way is what's going to get you the referrals and get you the client, because they're going to say, there's no one better than Tom and Angela. They took care of us, right?
Right. Perfect.
And so I think that sums up all of what we just talked about, is making sure that you stay with your clients.
You do. Yeah. Everybody wants an answer right away. We hear this all the time. Right? Everybody wants, because of our cell phones and our smartphones, they know they can get an answer on ChatGPT or Google if they want to, but that's not us. We're the personal touch and the experience of 21 years. We're right there for them. And everybody's situation is different. Luckily, we don't have children at home right now. So yes, we can answer the call 24/7 if we had to. If we knew something was going on, we are there for our clients. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
So we've closed.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about how we stay top of mind with them throughout the years.
Absolutely. It doesn't end at the closing table.
I love that. I love how you slid that in.
We do. We stay very in touch with our clients. We send them handwritten cards on their anniversary. We like to stay involved with their lives too. We talk to them when we see them out. We're volunteering still at our church and at our local events. So most of the time we'll see them out in the community at least once or twice a year, if not more. So, we're selling homes in their neighborhood. So a lot of times we'll see them out. We drop off pop-by gifts.
Oh, Angela keeps them in her car.
We
talked about this last time. Yeah.
Yep. So
just to kind of run through, so these are some of the notables, right? And we talked about this the last time we had you on the podcast, but I kept it on the notes because I think it's so important. So handwritten cards, these are just handwritten cards, okay? Thank you cards, $50 a month. Birthday cards, $25 a month. Anniversary cards, $10 to $12 a month. Purchase anniversary card. I mean, the total amount of handwritten cards that you and Angela do every month is somewhere between 90 and 100. It is. That is amazing. And let me tell you something. Every time someone sends me a handwritten card, which is not often, I call them and say, thank you. Nice. Because the handwritten card in the mailbox, the only thing I ever get is bills and junk mail. And you see that envelope hit your mailbox and you can tell, it's got your name on it and my name on it. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just get? You know? And so it is, I know a lot of people want to move to automation and all of those kinds of things, but That is really important to people, I think, or at least it's important to me.
It is. It is.
So I think it makes an impact.
Thank you. We'll sometimes throw in a scratch-off lottery ticket,
Well, those are fun.
A Ranger schedule, whatever. We have a discount code, for Rangers games. So randomly, we'll throw those in there as well, or mail them out so that the client will get that also.
Well, and these are all just touches, right? And for you to stay top of mind so that when they do know someone or they want to sell or buy again themselves, they can. So some of the marketing, we've got direct mailers, newsletters, social media posts.
Yes.
You do geo farming, which that's a whole nother podcast. Client appreciation events, that's a whole nother podcast. You know what? That would actually be a good podcast. We should talk about client appreciation events.
Yes.
Top of mind touches. So like the calendar, like you mentioned, or reaching out to them to help them fight their taxes in addition to the pop buys. I mean, look, guys, this is a huge list, but when you break it down and you schedule it out, it's not that unmanageable. It's not like it's unmanageable, right?
No, every month we pick 5 or 6 things to get done and get them in there, and we schedule them and we stick to it.
Okay.
It's.
So real quick before we wrap up, because we're going to in just a second.
Okay.
You mentioned something to me that we need to talk about. So you get. So you started with the parents or the grandparents, and then you got referred to the parents, and now you're getting referred to the kids. Right. You told me, how many generations have you worked? Like, what's the biggest?
That's a great question.
Is it 3 or 4?
At least 3. I know we've helped grandparents, parents, and children at least, and now those children are 4 and 5 years old and getting older. So at least 3 generations.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been blessed. We've been in the Frisco Plano area for 25 years and in real estate 21. So luckily we know, a good group of people and have a very good group of friends. So we're very blessed to keep that going.
I think that is kind of the biggest testament to what you guys have done is that you've worked with 3 generations of families, trying to help them through the helping them through the buy and sell process. So that's amazing. And that demonstrates thoroughly that you have created clients for life.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that's a great place to stop for today. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining me today. Always a pleasure to see you. Again, tell Angela we missed her today.
I will.
And that's a wrap on episode number 90. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gady with Lawyer's Title. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to earn your business. You can reach out to me on all of my social media platforms, and you guys go and make a great day.